guys. Hey, Temper. Hey, Thumbelina. How y'all doing? Happy Monday, happy Monday, happy Monday. How's everybody feeling? Did y'all have a nice weekend? Nobody talking that much in here. I said hello, and you talking about something. There she go. I was sitting here asking y'all how was y'all weekend then, and how y'all doing. I was only a minute late. I was only a minute late. Hey, Thumbelina, how you doing? That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. Oh, it is. I keep on forgetting that we on different time zones. I keep on forgetting that. Hey, Mikey, how you doing? Oh, so you had a weekend to yourself. You didn't have to worry about no son. You didn't have to worry about no child. You just had the weekend for yourself, huh? Hi, Miss Vanessa. How you doing? Yeah, they are. Cause over here on this side it's 6:03. Um, over there where you at, it might be a. That's good. That is good. That's very good. Oh, really? Congratulations. That's good. That's nice. Congratulations. Well, I wish you the best in your marriage and many, many more. That's a blessing that you can find that significant someone that you can connect with, you know? So that's a blessing in itself. It's a blessing in itself. So congratulations. Yep. Yeah. That's a blessing indeed. That was a surprise actually. But that's a blessing, sweetie. Congratulations. And I wish you many, many more. You know what? This month is my daughter's birthday month. Actually, her birthday is this week. Yep. Her birthday is this week. Her birthday is this week. She's gonna be a happy 17. Yep. She's gonna be 17 years old. So yeah, her birthday is this month as well. Yep. And actually, what makes it even more funnier is that St. Patrick's Day is tomorrow. Then it's her birthday. That's funny. That's real funny. St. Patrick's Day, and then after St. Patrick's Day, then it's her birthday. So yeah, yep. But again, congratulations, sweetheart. I wish you the best. I really do. I wish you the best. Yeah, exactly, Tupper. Hold on for a second, guys. Sorry about that, guys. So, this is gonna be my second live since I have been back working like crazy, and today I am off. Finally, finally, and I get to spend my time with my community today. That is, that's nice though. That really is. But I'm actually off today. Actually working a crazy bunch of weeks, and I get to spend time with my community. And I actually have a topic that I think I did this topic before. when I first started becoming a content creator. I had this topic before, but it's nothing wrong with refreshing a topic that you talked about before. You can have a part one and you can have a part two. So I guess you could say you can call this a part two, but then a remaking of the topic that I'm talking about. And you're going to have to excuse the noise in the background because my kids are making a lot of noise. So just bear with me, okay? Because they had an early dismissal today. Basically, the topic that I'm going to be talking about today is 4 types of boundaries. 4 types of boundaries. And the 4 types of boundaries that I'm going to be talking about is physical, mental, emotionally, and spiritually. Now, when we talk about boundaries, sometimes you have to set boundaries. And a lot of us, don't really do that, probably because we're comfortable with where we at in like friendships or relationships or whatever you could think of, even partnerships at work. And we be comfortable of where it's at. But then when we be so comfortable, we don't set no boundaries to let a person know what we want to tolerate, what we are going to tolerate. You know what I'm saying? It's just, you need to set boundaries. And a lot of us don't do that. Or a lot of us have done that, but we never follow through with it, And I feel like that nowadays you're gonna have to set boundaries. Hey, Lala, sometimes in life you're gonna have to set boundaries. You know what I'm saying? So this is the topic that I did a research on, and this is my definition that I had came up with. Basically, boundaries are physical, emotional, mental limits that individuals establish to identify what is acceptable, safe, healthy in relationship and personal space. And basically, I think that when we do that, we protect our peace, we protect everything within ourselves. And when we do that, we can get from away from disappointment, hurt, anything underneath the sun. We can be protected from a lot of things. So the first section that I'm going to be really talking about when it comes down to boundaries is physical. And I'm not going to really go down the list because it's a lot that's on the list of those 4 topics of boundaries. So I'm going to just sum it up. I might say some of them and, we just going to sum it up, okay? The first one is personal space and contact. The second one is time and energy. Now, let's start with the first one. And we just going to sum everything up, okay? When it comes down to personal space and contact, meaning that you want your, personal space. You don't want people all up in this or be all up in your business, or you don't want to tell all of your business. You know what I'm saying? So basically physical boundaries, meaning that you want your space. You don't want nobody all up in your face. And you don't want nobody, in your business. So another one can be your energy and time. Energy and time is important. Meaning that when you put your energy into someone, that's basically you giving your all. And you are basically giving it your all. And that's energy. by basically talking with them, arguing with them, and being in a relationship with them, basically beyond of false contacts. Yep. And when you come across that, that's a waste of energy as well. So when you do that and you come across someone that you thought that you was able to waste your energy with that person, and you falsely get in contact with them, that means you wasted your energy. You wasted your energy on that person, on something, and you could have had used it for something else. And a lot of us had done it. I had done it. All of us had done it, you know? And it's nothing wrong with that, but you just have to know how to value your energy and your time on someone, because when you waste your time and energy on someone, it get wasted, and then you have to rejuvenate yourself and have to find yourself again to basically get that energy back. Another one is basically touching. Who, how, where, or when. Now, when you do that, you know that when you do that, the energy goes into that person when you touch them. That's why a lot of people don't want to be touched, because of the simple fact that once you have that connection with someone by touching them, it's like energy is transferring to the next person. It's like it's transferring. And some of us don't know that. That's why a lot of people don't want to be touched unless they get a very positive vibe from you, because if they feel like you giving them a negative vibe, you know what I'm saying? That energy is going to be wasted. And that is true. You're violating their space too. Exactly. And also, like I said, when that person get a vibe from you and they feel like it's positive energy at first, but then it felt like it was false and they touch you or whatever the case may be, basically when they transfer energy, it's gonna bring you down, and it's gonna take your energy away. So whatever positive energy that you had to rejuvenate yourself, like I said. So you have to remember that when it comes down to physical, you have to keep in mind that if that person got positive energy, are they really being honest with themselves, and that they're being honest with you? And then also you have to realize too, when they come into your space and they're not being honest with you, you know what I'm saying? It's going to make you feel some type of way. And then when you feel like you wasted your time by that person lying to you or doing this or doing that, you wasted your energy on that friendship, relationship, or whatever the case may be. You wasted all of that. Now, the next one is physical needs: nutrients, sleep, exercise. Now, in order for you to keep the energy that you have, okay, good night, I gotta go. Okay, Mikey, sorry I was in the mix of talking. I'm sorry. You have a good night, okay? When it comes down to physical needs like nutrients and stuff like that, you already know that when it comes down to energy, you got to keep yourself nurtured. The number one thing that you need to have, foods that, hi Crystal, that, of course, water. Of course, you got to have water. And you just have to, I'm doing good, sweetie. How about you? You just have to have things that's going to be nurturing to your body in order for you to keep up with that energy that you have. Because it's just not going to just come up all of a sudden. You know what I'm saying? You have to find things that's going to keep you nurturing, keep your energy up, and stuff like that. So you have to always know that you have to basically know that when it comes down to your energy, you have to keep yourself nurturing. You gotta drink water. You gotta drink smoothies, anything that's going to keep you hydrated, healthy, you know, and exercise. It's nothing wrong. The number one thing that you could do that could keep up your energy and everything like that is you could go for a walk. I know once in a while I go for a walk, and that, it keeps up with my energy. And I be walking at work. And that really keeps up my energy, even though it's like tiring or whatever. But it helps you lose weight, and it keeps your energy up. So those types of things that you can do to keep up your energy. Those things you could do to keep up with your energy. And even if you take vitamins, that can help with your energy as well. But then you also have to watch out for certain vitamins that you take in order for you to keep up with your energy, okay? Another thing, the ability to make decisions about your body, health, and self-care practices. Basically, you need to start making decisions for yourself that you know that's going to be better for you. Like me. With me making decisions about my health, I decide to get a job that I can be physical on. Meaning that I can move around, not stand in one spot, and keep on basically, moving. Because when you keep moving, it helps your body, it helps your bones and stuff like that. And then self-care practice too. Meaning that you do affirmations, you say something to yourself that's going to bring your spirits up, finding yourself, and also basically, taking care of yourself, basically, and making best decisions to take care of yourself and your physical self as well, your body, making sure that your body right by going to your doctor's appointments and stuff like that, that type of things. And that's what it's all about when it comes down to the physical boundaries. Knowing what you need, knowing what you want, knowing what you tolerate for your body, and knowing what is acceptable for your body and for your health. So that's the part with the physical, okay? Now, we're going to go to the emotional. Emotional. Allowing yourself to feel your feelings. When it comes down to boundaries, you have to allow yourself to feel your feelings. And sometimes we want to be alone. Sometimes we want to be alone. Thank you. Sometimes we want to be alone when we allow ourselves to feel our feelings. Because sometimes when you show your feelings, we sometimes want to show our emotions, and sometimes we want to be alone. But it's nothing wrong with you feeling your feelings. But then sometimes you shouldn't show everybody, you know what I'm saying, your emotions or your feelings. Because that's when people want to take advantage. They want to basically look at you as you being weak, which it doesn't mean that you're weak. It's just that it's nothing wrong with allowing yourself to feel those feelings. Like if you lose a loved one, it's nothing wrong with feeling your feelings of angry and sadness and disappointment or whatever the case may be. But the only thing about that is that you should not let yourself get so tied up in it. Hey, Peacock, how you doing? You shouldn't let yourself get so tied up in those emotions that you get to a point that you just get all jacked up. It's okay to feel those feelings. It's okay to feel those feelings. But at the same time, you sometimes want to show them, but then sometimes you don't want to do that. But it's nothing wrong with feeling your feelings. It's nothing wrong with that. It's a boundary that we all have. And all of us want to show our feelings, but at the same time, we don't want to. But then we let the emotions get out of control too. So it's nothing wrong with feeling your feelings. Just don't let your feelings get out of control. You know what I'm saying? And we have a tendency in doing that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? The ability to separate your feelings from others' emotions and issues. Say that one more time. Ability to separate your feelings from others' emotions and issues. Now, a lot of us, when a person has a problem, okay, we have a tendency of letting our emotions dictate us, and it's their problem. And a lot of us do that because we so kind-hearted, we so giving, we so all of these things that we let our emotions take over to the point that we act like it's our problem. But it's really not our problem. It's their problem. So we have to learn how to separate our feelings from other emotions and issues, because sometimes we have a tendency of pulling ourselves into that. And you have to put yourself on a boundary for that. Because if you don't do that, when you involve your emotions and your issues with somebody else, then that's when the boundary get broken. Your problem is not my problem. It's not mine. Exactly. And a lot of people make things their problem, but it doesn't involve them. Even though we have a kind heart, even though we're very giving, even though that we want to be that person to be like, well, let me help you, let me save the day. But really, you can't do that, because once you put your emotions into their problem, then that's when the issues come in. So that's when you have to make boundaries to say to yourself, look, even though I want to help this person, I can't. You have to step back. That's when you put the boundary on. Yep, it does. That's when the trauma bonding starts. Hello, Renee. Hello, Renee Allen. I'm sorry, Allen. How you doing? Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. The next one is recognizing you're not responsible for others' feelings. I'm going to say that one more time. Recognizing you're not responsible for other people's feelings. If a person mess up, when a person mess up and they're mad, that's not your fault. That's really not your fault. If they mess up and they do what they do, you're not responsible for their feelings. You only responsible for your feelings. You can only be accountable for what you feeling and your feelings, nobody else's, because they their person and you're your person. You only responsible for your feelings, not theirs, because you're not in their body. You're not them. You're not them. So why should you be responsible for somebody else's feelings? You're not them. You're you. The only person that should be responsible for their feelings is them. If you sit there and be responsible for somebody else's feelings, that's going to sit there and drain your energy, and then you're going to be feeling some type of way and be sitting there wondering why am I doing this? And you're going to be all sucked and drained out, looking crazy, and just be wondering like why I'm so drained, why I'm just like this and that, or whatever the case may be, because you are using somebody else's feelings. You should be feeling the way that you should be feeling, not you feeling or being responsible of their feelings. You're only responsible for your feelings. You got it. And then when they sit there and do that, they want to suck you in and make you feel guilty and make you feel like that you was the one that did something, but really it wasn't you, it was them. So that's when they do the sucker for punishment. And as they call it, trying to make you feel like a fool, like you ain't worth nothing. So that's why I'm saying you need to be responsible for your feelings, not theirs. Because if you're not responsible for your own feelings and you sitting there being responsible for their feelings, that's when you get trapped. And then you're going to be walking around here crying, boo-hoo, oh my God. And then they sitting there looking at you dumb like, I got you. I got you. I got you. I got you, boo. So, you don't want that because it's going to drain your energy. So, there you go, Temp. There you go, Temp. And it was on the tip of my tongue, but I just couldn't get it out, but you made a good point. Narcissistic acts. That's when that narcissistic act comes in. And that's the worst. That is the worst. Okay. The next one is respecting your privacy. Respecting your privacy. And a lot of us, okay, see you later. Enjoy your breakfast. A lot of people, well, all of us that's on YouTube, okay? A lot of us like to show certain things. And a lot of us don't want to show certain things, okay? You have to respect everybody's privacy. Everybody don't have to tell what they doing, how they feeling, or whatever the case may be. Nobody has to tell you nothing unless they choose to. So people need to learn to respect other people's privacy. Now, if you choose to put, your business on YouTube or Facebook or whatever the case may be, let's keep it 100. That's not privacy. That's blasting all your stuff out there. But if you want people to respect your privacy, don't put nothing out there. Don't put nothing out there that people can, see or comment or whatever. But people do need to respect other people's privacy. But if you want that respect for your privacy, don't put it out there. Don't put it out there. Now, if you choose to put it out there, that's because you chose to do that for good reason. But a lot of people do that for, different reasons, just, show off, or, they feel comfortable with themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But respecting people's privacy, if they telling you they don't want to talk about this or they don't want to talk about that or whatever the case may be, just respect their privacy. Don't keep on pushing the conversation. Let it go. If they don't want to tell you, they don't have to tell you, And also, if you don't want to have people in your business on social media or whatever, keep it private. Don't tell nobody. But like I said, you have to respect people's privacy. And another thing, people do things to show their true feelings towards you. That's true too. But guess what? I still need to respect their privacy, because I don't want to step my boundary and, step in their space, you know what I'm saying? And, go in their personal space. And even if they did, even if they, say something towards me, it's still none of my business. But still, just respect people's privacy. If they don't want to have no conversation about such and such or whatever the case may be, leave it alone. Respect their privacy. But if you want to show your business, that's not private. That's basically for the world to see. So just always remember, respect people's boundaries. Respect their privacy as well. That's it. And shoot, I respect that. And that goes for me as well. Respect my privacy. But if I don't put it out there, I'm not going to tell you about it, because that means that's my business and not yours. Okay? Okay. Now, let's move to the mental. Talk is cheap. Money buys land. What you give the world, you cannot take back. That's true. Now, let's go for mental. We're going to go to the mental. The mental. Topic of conversation. Wait a minute. Let's go to this one. How much, what, and when you share with others. Now, I want to talk about this one. How much, what, and when you share to others. Now, that right there, I'm going to admit, whatever you share to a person, what, when, and how much, that can really, really, really put you in a position that they can throw you up, throw it up in your face. But you should have a boundary with that. You should really have a boundary with that, because how much, what, and when you share with others, that could be a dangerous thing. And it could be something very private, to the point that, it can cause a lot of problems. So sometimes in life, we have to have a boundary to share whatever that we share to a person. And in my personal opinion, depending on the situation, you shouldn't share whatever with others that you don't want them to tell. And a lot of us don't put boundaries on certain things that we tell. Some people make content out of you. They sure enough do. They do. And that's why sometimes we have to learn that when it comes down to how much we share, we have to put a limit on it. We have to put a limit of whatever we share. Anything that pertains to your family, you should not share. Anything tragic that has happened to you, you should not share. It's certain things you share. And even if sometimes even when you're in a relationship, you should not share. Because you don't know what a person's alternative motive is. Not saying just like we had a limit to everything we do. Exactly. Yeah, we do. And we also have to realize too, whatever we share to a person, there's not a guarantee, and I'm sorry to say this, it's not a guarantee that it's not going to go to the next person. So that's why sometimes when it comes down to what you share with a person and what you say to a person, you have to have limits on that. You have to have limits on that. Because if you don't have no limits on that or make a boundary on that, then that's when it gets out of control. So you have to make a mental decision to have a boundary on whatever you discuss or whatever you tell, because sometimes that can get you in trouble. So you have to make a boundary of what you say, what you do, and whatever you tell a person, because like Temper just said, a person can make a content about you and you didn't have no idea. But that's because you shared whatever piece of information that was valued for someone to use for content or use to, throw up in your face. So that's why you have to make a mental decision in your mind what you should share and what you should not share. That should be a boundary in itself that you don't cross and don't do, because you don't want to be in no mess and you don't want to look embarrassed and look crazy. How others speak to you. How others speak to you. Now, a lot of us, some of us, not a lot of us, but some of us have a tendency of talking a certain way to a person. And a lot of people is not going to tolerate certain things that you say to them. So people want to have boundaries of what you say. Like some people might have a boundary of you cussing at them, or they might have a boundary with you yelling at them or arguing with them. And sometimes you have to make a boundary with a way that a person is talking to you, because some people have a tendency of talking to you like you a little kid, or they might talk to you like, you ain't worth nothing. So in order for you to set the tone to have somebody talk to you in a certain way, you need to make a boundary and let that person know, look, or pull them to the side or be like, look, I'm grown just like you. You don't have to talk to me this way. Or before that gets to that point, you let that person know straight off the bat, it's a boundary that I'm making the way that you talk to me. So can you please don't do this, don't do that? Just let a person know, like just let them know that you don't want them to talk to you any kind of way in a certain tone. You know what I'm saying? And I bet you if you make a boundary with that, you will have a better relationship or friendship. But a lot of people step over those boundaries. So sometimes we have to let a person know in a respectful way. Look, don't come at me this way. Don't come at me that way. Or don't talk to me in this way. But you don't have to say it nasty. Just let them know. Just give them heads up ahead of time to let them know what you're going to tolerate and what you're not going to tolerate and how you speak to me. You know what I'm saying? So it's nothing wrong with letting a person know how you want a person to talk to you. It's nothing wrong with that at all, in my personal opinion. Able to decide what you think and believe and express your own opinion. Again, the ability to decide what you think and believe and express your own opinion. Now, everybody is going to think what they want to think. And everybody's going to believe what they want to believe and want to express their own opinion. But at the same time, you should have a boundary of how how your opinion has come off. Because we're going to have moments that we're going to say what we think and what we believe. But a lot of people is not going to believe what you believe. So when we express our own opinions, everybody's not going to basically agree with you or feel the same way you feel. But everybody is entitled to express how they feel. Because everybody has the ability to decide what you think. You know, everybody has a way of, basically what I'm saying is, worded correctly, everybody has a way to believe on what they want to believe and think what they want to think. But when you give your opinion, everybody's not going to agree with everything that you're going to say. But you should have your own beliefs and you should think the way that you want to think and give your opinion. And a lot of us don't agree with each other sometimes. So sometimes you have to always remember, when you express your own opinion, everybody's not going to agree with you. But you should still feel able to give your opinion and express how you feel. Because when you express how you feel, you let it out. You know what I'm saying? But then at the same time, you need to make a boundary of saying to yourself, I should be able to think this way. I should be able to feel this way. And I should be able to give my opinion. But just because a person don't agree with me doesn't mean that my opinion don't count either. That's what I get from this. Y'all might look at me kind of different of how I'm saying it, but that's how I feel, if it makes sense. So just know that the ability to decide what you think and what you believe in, it might not be the same way that the other person feels. Because everybody's going to have opinions and everybody's going to feel the way that they feel. But it doesn't mean that it has to be the same. Everybody's going to have their beliefs. Everybody's going to make their own opinion and express their own opinion. But you should still have a boundary of knowing that even though that person might not agree with you, you don't have to bash the other person's opinion either. So just always remember that, you know, that you have the ability to decide what you think and believe. And you can also express your opinion. But that person don't have to agree with everything that you say. And that's my opinion from it. It might be different from yours, but this is my opinion. And I am entitled to feel the way I feel. Okay? All right, guys. The next one is right to remain silent. Right to remain silent or refuse to answer any questions. Okay? The next one, like I said, right to remain silent or refuse to answer any questions. A lot of people feel like that they have to answer everything that a person asks you. Sorry, guys, my eyes are getting watery. Everybody feels like that they are entitled to answer whatever questions that they give you. And a lot of people feel like they need to give all the answers to their questions. To be honest with you, you're not entitled to answer no questions that you don't want to. That's what they make you think, that you have to answer all the questions that you need to answer. Which you're not entitled to answer all the questions that a person gives you. You are entitled to not answer no questions that, you know, that's being asked. That's when people need to, you know, make a boundary and say, look, I can't answer that question because I don't want to answer that question. You are entitled to say that. There is something called being nosy. Exactly. And also, people want to know the tea, as they call it, the tea. Not the tea that you drink, but the tea of gossip. So when a person, want to sit there and, ask you all these questions, you're not entitled to answer none of those questions. You could just simply say that's none of your business, or you could be like, well, I don't want to have that discussion. But you have a nice day. And if the person don't like that answer, then that must mean that, well, hey, they catching an attitude because they not trying to, you're not giving up no tea. It's not the fact you don't want to give up no tea. It's just the fact that you don't care. Or you just trying to get yourself out of some mess. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to answer any questions that anybody asks you. This is where them calls get You never lie. That's true. That hey, that is true. And a lot of people do that too nowadays. A lot of people do that too nowadays. But you're not entitled to answer no questions. It's not like you're going to get thrown for punishment. If you don't want to answer no questions, you don't have to answer no questions. And if you don't want to be in the middle of no nonsense, don't even answer the phone. Or just act like the person's not there. You are not entitled to answer no questions. That's when that boundary has to come through. Like, if it doesn't pertain to me, if it does not pertain to me, I don't want to talk about it. If it doesn't have nothing to do with my family, I don't want to talk about it. Or my job. If whatever questions that you asking me that don't pertain to work or my family or whatever the case might be, I don't want to know. So that's when that boundary you have to make. And if you don't want to even talk about them type of questions, don't even pick up the phone. Cause that's a boundary right there. And a lot of us do that. A lot of us do that. We don't want to admit it, but it's true. But that's when you get in a whole bunch of mess. So always remember, you have the right to remain silent and refuse to answer any questions. You don't have to answer nothing. And if you keep your mouth shut, you don't have to be in no mess. So those were all the things that came with mental boundary. Now the spiritual one. I think everybody's going to love this one. Okay? The ability to determine your own beliefs. The ability to determine your own beliefs. Everybody has their own beliefs. Everybody believes in something. But the part that people don't realize is that if a person believes in something, roll do for drag. I'm trying to pronounce this the best way I can, okay? I'm not trying to mess up your name. But that one, which that one you talking about, sweetie? Let me just call you R. And let me just put it out there. I'm not in a failing grade. It's just that certain words I can't pronounce, okay? But I'm gonna call you R, okay? But what you mean by that one, sweetie? A lot of people is gonna have different beliefs. Thank you, Temper, because I don't know what that one he meant. The ability of basically determining your own beliefs. People gonna have certain beliefs that you might not believe, but then they believe in something, but you want them to believe what you're believing. Everybody determines their own beliefs of what they believe in. And some people need to stop crossing that boundary to try to make people change the beliefs that they have. Everybody have a certain way that they believe. Just like everybody has a certain way that they believe in God. But just because a person believes in God this way, it doesn't mean that they have to, believe the way that you believe. Everybody have different beliefs. And you should have the ability to be determined to have your own beliefs. You're going to have your own beliefs, but you should not change somebody else's beliefs because you feel that they have to believe this way. And when it comes to spiritually, that's a boundary that you have to make right there. Because when people start making you believe certain things, it's almost like they want you to change what you believe in. And you have to respect that. You can't make a person change the way they believe. They have those beliefs for a reason. So respect that. Don't change them. Respect that. Respect what they believe. And if you cannot respect that, you gotta go. Everybody has different beliefs. Honoring your values and your beliefs. Now, in this day and age, some of us do honor and value our beliefs, but some of us don't. And a lot of us, when we have values, we let our values go low. And it's nothing, some of us do that, but when you honor your values, basically that's meaning that you honor yourself with respect, knowing your worth, and knowing where you came from. And you have to value those things. When you value something, that means that you stand yourself in a high standards. And then when you start doing that, then that's when you develop the beliefs in that. And you need to make a boundary for that. So you can keep in mind of the things that you value and the things that you believe. Because once that person crossed that boundary and don't honor your values of what you believe and what you value about yourself, that means they don't respect you. So when you honoring your values like your self-worth, self-love, self-respect, when you have those values, that's when your beliefs come in. You start believing in yourself that you are those things. You know what I'm saying? And you have to make a boundary with that to make people understand that that's how much you value yourself. And then you also, when you have values, you stand yourself at a higher point. That's when your confidence come up. You know what I'm saying? So in order for you to honor your values and stuff like that, first you need to put your values out there of what you are. And then you have to start believing in it. And once you start believing in it, you won't be lowering your standards to do certain things that you know you don't supposed to do. So you got to stand yourself in the high standards. You have to. Because if you don't, then that's when you don't value yourself. And a lot of us have gotten to the point that some of us, we lost that. And even though we lost that, we regained it back. But it's kind of hard to discover that again. But it's nothing wrong with discovering it again. So when you honor your values and your beliefs, when you honor your values and your beliefs, that's when your confidence go up as well. And once you start valuing your values and your beliefs, like I said, your values is your self-worth, self-love, self-care. And once you establish that, then when you start believing in yourself that you have those things, that's when you don't take no bull crap. You don't take no bull crap and you don't take no mess. And you let a person know, look, I'm this and this and that. I don't got time for your mess. That's what I get from it. The next one is exploring your gifts and your talents. Exploring your gifts and your talents. How you doing, Martha? How you doing today? My gifts, I'm gonna use me for an example. My gifts is to be there for my kids and helping people and reaching out to people that need to hear what I'm talking about. I'm doing good. I'm doing good as well. Those are my talents. And that's my gift. And when you discover your talents and the gifts that you do, that's when you know who you are. When you discover your gifts and your talents. Because the talent that I have of being a content creator, it didn't happen overnight. It just developed over time. And with me having that gift to help people and me exploring it, it's making me be better and better and better. And that's my gift that I give to my community because I love helping people. But my talent is me reaching out to people, talking with people, and also, just being there for people. That's my talent. Those are my talents that I have. But by me exploring them, on YouTube has made me a better person. Maybe to a lot of people, I haven't became a better person, but to me, I have. I have grown into a, different person. And when you explore your gifts and your talents, it makes you be a better person. And it makes you feel proud of yourself. And it makes you feel like that you have done something. That you have talent. And like I said, when you explore your gifts and your talents, it comes out, especially comes out the way you speak. And it comes out the way you move. And then not only that, it comes out in a very spiritual way as well. So when you have gifts and talents and you explore them, it comes out. It comes out naturally too. So it's nothing wrong with you to explore your gifts and your talents. But it's all about you believing in yourself that you're able to show your gifts and show your talent. That's the boundary that you have to make for yourself. You have to have that boundary to know that when you have explored your gifts and you explore your talents and you constantly do it, it shows that you're getting better. So always know that when you exploring your gifts and you exploring your talents, it's not a bad thing. But when you constantly keep on going, doing it and doing it and doing it, you're going to come out on top. Especially when you do it in an authentic way. You come out on top. So just knowing the spiritual boundary way that exploring your gifts and your talents is a beautiful thing. And when you constantly do it, just know when you do it in an authentic way, you're going to sit there and win it. You're going to win it. Because I know I'm going to win it, even though I've been having some drops. Identifying your purpose. I love this one. Identifying your purpose. I'm going to identify my purpose. My purpose, being on YouTube, is to help people when they're in mourning, build their confidence, know their self-worth, and to feel better about themselves. That's to identify me on this channel. To identify me, to identify my purpose with being on this earth is to show an example to my kids that if you are with someone or not, and you a single parent and you're not, you can still make it. And also know that whatever you put your mind to, you are able to do anything that you put your mind to. That was my purpose of being here. That was my purpose of having 5 kids. That was my purpose. Thank you. That was my purpose of why I was on this earth. Because God wanted me to see what difference I was able to make on doing what I'm doing. You know? And identifying that purpose stays in my mind every day. Just like y'all have identifying your purpose of why you on YouTube, why you on Facebook, why you on Instagram, why you on this and you on that. Everybody is defining their purpose. Everybody's defining their purpose. Everybody has a purpose of why they doing what they doing. We might not know, but they have a purpose why they doing what they doing. And the spiritual thing about it is that when you do whatever you do, and you express it by doing content of singing, cooking, doing a live that I'm doing, or you show it off at work, it shows the purpose of why you doing it. Because you love what you do. Just like I love what I do. Even though I haven't been up here for weeks, but I love doing what I'm doing. Regardless of anything that goes wrong. I love doing what I'm doing. And by me doing this, it's identifying my purpose. By you seeing what I'm doing, you seeing my purpose of doing it. You see it on my description. And I always say it all the time. I don't do this for likes and views and stuff. I do this because I really want to reach out to someone so they can understand that they're not the only one that's going through what they're going through. identifying my purpose. That's why I'm doing this. That's my purpose of doing what I'm doing. So I can reach out to people and let you look back on all my content so you can learn something from it. You know? So, yeah. Okay, guys. I'm going to say this last one. And this is a nice one right here. Standing up for yourself. Standing up for yourself. That is the most important thing. A spiritual boundaries. That is the most important last one. When you stand up for yourself, that means you have that inner power in you to let a person know, or just say to yourself, I'm not putting up with this. Or you let a person know, nah, you know what I'm saying? And standing up for yourself is a beautiful thing. There's nothing wrong with that. That goes to show what you're going to tolerate and what you're not going to tolerate. And that's showing inner growth. Your self-esteem is high. And you having a boundary of letting the person know, I'm not putting up with this. And it's a beautiful thing to stand up for yourself. Especially when you have a bully that's bullying you. Standing up for yourself is showing that person that you're a lot stronger than what you are. It's nothing wrong with standing up for yourself. And a lot of people feel like there's something wrong with standing up for yourself, but it's nothing wrong with it. It's not a crime. Standing up for yourself is a beautiful thing. And it's a spiritual thing, because within you, you telling yourself, I'm not putting up with this. But then on the outside, you letting the person know, I'm not putting up with this. And then you showing too, you got values too. You got values within yourself. You got values within yourself. So by you standing up for yourself, it's not a crime. It doesn't mean that you weak. It just means that there's certain things that you're not going to tolerate. And you shouldn't have to. So trust me, sweetie. Standing up for yourself is the most beautiful thing that you can ever do. And then it also shows that you're glowing and letting a person know, like, I'm standing up for myself, and I know I'm not tolerating this because I'm better than that. And once you do that, and you send that message to that person, they're going to leave you alone. And then that also shows to that person, well, good Lord, I didn't know she had it up in. So it's nothing wrong with standing up for yourself. You got to have boundaries to stand up for yourself. You have to let a person know. It could be anybody, a boss, or whoever, or if a person is bullying you and bringing you down or whatever, you got to let a person know how you feel and how you rolling. Because once you do that, that's going to show them you ain't tolerating no crap. And when you feel that spiritually in your heart, it's going to come out. And once they see it, they're going to be like, well, good Lord. That came out of nowhere. Of course it came out of nowhere, because that inner side in me, the spirit inside in me told me that you got this. You don't got to put up with that. And then that's when it comes right out, be like, boom. And that person just look at you like, good Lord. That just came out of nowhere. I didn't expect her to say that. And then you going to sit there and be like, well, now you know. Now you know. And what? So don't ever feel like you cannot stand up for yourself. I don't care if it was 2 years from now or whatever. It is nothing wrong with you having a boundary and saying to yourself, I'm not going to tolerate this. But the thing is, once you do that, because I had to learn this. Once you do that, don't go back. That means you don't go back to whatever you did before when that person did what they did to you. You don't go back to that person and apologize and be like, well, I'm sorry I said this. I'm sorry I said no. You don't go back there, and you don't go back to that person that bullied you or hurt you. Because once you go back to the same way that you used to be, that means all that spiritual work of you standing up for yourself, standing your ground or whatever goes right back down. And then it's going to make that person think, you know, she ain't mean nothing. She ain't mean nothing by that. That's why when you sit there and say what you say, you need to mean what you mean. And when you stand up for yourself, you walk away from the, situation or whatever and act like it never happened. But like I said, standing up for yourself is a beautiful thing. So don't you ever be ashamed about that. Don't you ever feel no type of guilt or nothing. Because there's nothing wrong with you standing up for yourself. Nothing. And you heard that from me first. It's nothing wrong with that. And you don't even supposed to be feeling guilty about it. So on that note, those are the 4 types of boundaries that we talked about. Physical, emotions, mental, spiritual. Those are the 4 types of boundaries. And I don't know if I, took too long talking about this stuff, but it does feel good to be going live for the second time since I've been working. And it's always a pleasure to speak with y'all guys and sharing, experiences and everything like that. Because I know, like I said, somebody's listening in. Somebody's hearing me. Somebody probably going through the same thing that the rest of the people out here are going through. But always know you're not alone. But always remember the 4 boundaries that you need to set in order for you to have some type of peace in your life. Because if you don't have these type of boundaries in your life, your peace is going to be so messed up, and you don't want your peace to get messed up. Having peace is a wonderful thing. Having peace is a wonderful thing. I'm going to say it one more time. Having peace is a wonderful thing. Always remember that. You don't ever let nobody take your peace. Because once they take your peace, it gets messed up, it gets jacked up, and then you have to figure out a way to get that peace back again. So in order for you to keep your peace, get rid of all the unnecessary stuff that you had before, and I bet you 9 times out of 10, your life will be 10 times better. And I will say this, I'm not going to put all my information there, but I know when I made changes, my peace is back intact, and I'm loving every bit of it. Every bit. So, on that note, my sweethearts, it's been a pleasure like always. It's been a pleasure like always. Remember, the 4 boundaries: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. put that all together, you're going to be at peace. So, as we meet again, my sweethearts, the Pretty Heart Conqueror is out. I will check y'all out later. Bye.